Yay! Hello, friends. Welcome back to Worldhoppers, the collaborative channel that is primarily about fantasy, but occasionally about other genres and different kinds of books and things. But today we're actually going to be talking about an adaptation, which would be for Witcher Season 2. We will be getting into spoilers for Season 1 and Season 2 of Witcher, but we won't be talking spoilers for the books if you're worried about that. Also, all the AdSense revenue from Worldhoppers goes to charity as well as merch sales, so be sure to check that out. But anyway, we're just going to jump right into it. We're going to start by talking about how much we've consumed of Witcher because it does have a lot of different forms. It did start with some books, and then there was a very popular video game, and now we have this show. And there's technically also an original show from Poland that was in Polish. I've never seen that, though. But we'll start with Joshana talking about how we got into Witcher.
Well, I'm probably the least, into Witcher out of everyone here, I would imagine. I never even heard of it until I started watching your channel and became friends with you, and never picked up the books. I tried once. I got it from the library and then just never started it. So yeah, I haven't read the books. I have not played the video games. I'm not a gamer aside from The Sims. So yeah, I have not played the video games. I've seen you play parts of it.
In front of you? I know I've played other games in front of you.
Yeah, I think you played part of The Witcher in front of me. Yeah, you were showing me some scene. Anyway,
that's right.
Yeah. And so yeah, I've seen the Netflix show though. I watched season 1. I watched twice, and then I've seen season 2 now.
I knew about The Witcher before the show, but I had no interest in it because it was one of those times where marketing was going so hard for the video game crowd. I didn't realize the books were first. I never looked into it, and it just had video game covers, and I'm like, I have no interest. Because I normally don't read IP books. It's just not my favorite thing to do. I don't read Star Wars books. I don't read Doctor Who books, etc. And then I learned that they came first. And then I was still just I don't know. And then I saw the trailer for season 1. And then I'm like, this is giving me Xena Warrior Princess vibes, but with this really hot guy. And I just really want to watch it. So I know some people have issues when they really love the video games and the books, seeing Henry as Geralt, but he has always been Geralt for me. And so yeah. I read The Last Wish and loved it and was so mad that for years I hadn't read it because the cover looked really bad for me. So I read all the books. I have a very mixed experience with the main novels, but I really love the short stories and I really love the characters. And I don't know, I've been loving the shows. I've watched the first season 3 times now, and I'm on my rewatch of season 2. It's just comfortable fantasy for me. I just love it. So
I think you're not alone in thinking that the video game came first and then the books. I think, like you said, especially with the covers in at least the English editions in America, the covers having the video game art was confusing for a lot of people, especially because the video games are a what-if scenario that comes after the events of the books, which means the artwork on the covers doesn't go at all with what's in the books. But yeah, you're definitely not the only one.
Yeah, no, I was just led astray, and I really should stop judging books by their covers. I've had so many favorites where I just didn't pick them up for years because I hated the covers, but I don't learn. So
covers are important. I don't care what anyone says. But Joshana, I'm with you. I've only watched the show. I knew about the books and then heard about the video games, but I also only play The Sims. And I just kept getting confused because I'm like, this book says number 1, but then there's a 0.5, and people would be like, well, you need to read this short story, but you don't have to read this other one. And so I think I have 2 of them, but I don't know which ones I have. And then I was like, my husband watched the show and I was like, no, I'm going to read the books first. And then I realized I'm not getting to them anytime soon. So I gave in recently and watched the first season and then the second season when that was out. And now after talking to Angela, I don't know if I want to read the books, just hearing, what.
I still think you should read the short stories, but everything you want more of is not in the novels.
So yeah, if you're not getting more, yeah, I don't want to say too much, but I know what you want, Jess, and you're going to get that in in Sword of Destiny mostly, and then Blood of Elves, which is not a short story. And then after that, it's not what you want.
Yeah. So I don't even know which ones I have, but maybe I'll just read the short stories. But I've had to let go of my need to read the thing first before watching the adaptation because I just can't get to all the things in time. So
I'm sure you're not the only one who's curious, but just really quick, I'll add, because it is confusing, especially how they marketed it with they literally put one on what is technically the third book that you should read. So The Last Wish is a collection of short stories you want to read first, and then Sword of Destiny. What's especially confusing is that within the short stories have their own names, and they're not told chronologically. So that can be throwing people off too. But if you read The Last Wish first, and then you read Sword of Destiny, you'll be good to go.
Yeah, just go publication order because that's also their publication order. So,
and then there's like a side quel with Season of Storms. Which
what? What did you say?
It's a side quel.
A side quel. It's not a prequel exactly. It's not exactly a continuation. It's a side quel.
I still want to read that one because I think that has the stuff I like about The Witcher, but I was so annoyed at Lady of the
Lake. I think it's fun. It's kind of a Geralt and Dandelion / Jaskier, however people know him as. It's a decent amount of the two of them. And also it's just, I think it actually is pretty appealing if you like the video games, which I know that's not necessarily the crowd here, but it feels like a side quest in the Wild Hunt, which the Wild Hunt is the third game, and it's pretty well known for having fantastic side quests. The side quests genuinely have really great stories. I'm just hearing Alan now. If any of you have seen Alan talk about Witcher, he always talks about how great the side quests are. But because we were talking about the order and things like that, that plays a role a lot in season 1, which a lot of people had very different feelings toward. I definitely have my own set, but I'll save my thoughts for last.
Yeah, the first time I watched, like I said, I saw the trailers and stuff, and like, of course, being on BookTube, everybody was talking about it, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna watch it, like, because at that point, I had already determined, like, I'm just not reading these books. Like, it's just not a thing that's gonna happen for me. I don't really care that much, and just what I'd heard, kind of what you guys are saying, I was like, I feel like I would end up not really having a great time reading all the books, so whatever. So yeah, I watched it, and I was horribly confused. So confused. Like, I was having to Google, like, what is this thing? What does this mean? Because things just weren't really explained if you'd never experienced anything Witcher related before. The whole child surprise thing, I was like, what the heck is this? What does this mean? Because nobody's really telling me.
To be fair, I think that book readers and video game players also had to look up what was the surprise.
It wasn't just me.
Yeah,
because I mean, just the way they did the timeline of everything was very like, figure it out. I was confused, and I think too with season 1, I was enjoying it, but I was a little like skeptical, kind of the CGI stuff sometimes, and the like. All of a sudden, there's a guy with a porcupine head, and I was like, what is happening right now? Like, I think I was kind of going into it more expecting like a Game of Thrones type of world and vibe, which, to be fair to The Witcher, is not what is going on here, but I didn't know, so I was a little thrown off a couple times, but I was enjoying the story and the characters enough that I kind of didn't care all that much. I was like, whatever, it's fun.
I think all of us know, and a lot of other fantasy fans, that everything is marketed as the new Game of Thrones. And if it's not marketed, critics are expecting it to be, and they can't help but compare it to Game of Thrones because it's the only frame of reference besides Lord of the Rings. And that's clearly not what this is either. Yeah. But of the two, it's definitely more Game of Thrones-like. And I think that because the books are somewhat inspired by history in Central and Eastern Europe, and it's got a lot of the folklore, that maybe people think that's part of why it would have, not saying you did, but I think there was this expectation that it was going to be like Game of Thrones. But the folklore elements are really strong, and they're strange because folklore is really out there sometimes. Yeah. And like it's very
fairy tales or something.
Yes. And I actually think that's worked for a lot of people, is that they went into it initially thinking like it was going to be Game of Thrones like. And then I think season 2 has done a good job of this, of really establishing that it's not Game of Thrones, it's its own thing. And it's basically like if you took a grim fairy tale and you, especially with certain episodes, feeling like their own story. So anyway, sorry. Just wanted to add to that.
Yeah, so I mean, like I kind of said, when I saw the trailer, I didn't think Game of Thrones. I thought Xena Warrior Princess, but like no one watched the 90s fantasy stuff unless they had my father who made me watch all of these things.
I watched that.
Yeah,
show.
so I mean, I was like, oh, I haven't had like a broody main character who hates themselves in a while. I like that on TV. And so I do think reading the books, like the first 2 short stories, like I wasn't as confused watching it, but I was like, wow, they're really like respecting the audience almost to the point where people are going to be mad, where they don't understand the timelines. I'm like, this is aggressive. You could have just put like a year timestamp in the left corner. Like you could have done it. But I actually had friends who don't read fantasy who were watching the show, and when it clicked for them what the timelines were, they were really excited and like loved that narrative device. So I think it's just one of those things where they weren't going to win everyone over, but I loved it. The CGI is here or there, but Elle knows I don't care about that as much as most people. And I don't know, I've watched it now 3 times, and what I really loved on this rewatch, because it was after season 2, they have been putting so much groundwork for all of the lore they've been doing in season 2, because some of it's very book and video game inspired, but some of it is they're doing their own twists and stuff and embellishments for the sake of storytelling. And I'm like, wow, I did not realize this was already set up so early in season 1. So I think it's like super rewatchable, and because it's not very well like listen to this info dump about this world, like there are different politics I pick up on each watch through and different lore things. So for me, I'm really enjoying re-experiencing it, and I think I might like season 1 a bit more than season 2, which I know is unpopular, but like I really like watching Geralt like find friends and fall in love and like find Ciri. Like I loved Geralt's journey in season 1 more so than in season 2.
What was something that you feel like they've been laying the groundwork for that you noticed on rewatch?
Well, so I think something the books were really rough with for me was the politics between all the sorcerers and their kingdoms. And I think how they've like been laying that down has been like, it makes a lot of sense. Like when you pick up certain sentences, and then like in season 2, it's very clear that she destroys this monolith in the first episode of season 1, but I didn't pay attention to it. And so when we got to season 2, I'm like, what monolith? I remember her breaking the ground open, but what was this building? So like there were just, it's stuff with Ciri primarily, especially with all of the mentions of Falca and this, you know, destiny and this genetic thing going on with her and her family line. Like it's not well explained, the convergence of spheres and stuff like that. But I think all of that world building has always been layered in, not necessarily I think to everyone's taste, but I've noticed it each time, and I learn more in the TV's world versus like the book. I don't know.
What about you, Jess?
So like I said, I put off watching it for a while, and then when I started watching it, I was starting to watch it with a friend, and she was really into it and got like 3 episodes, and I was like, all right, let me catch up. And I was like, oh, like it started off just like, I very much notice CGI things, and I'm like, and I already knew Henry Cavill as a very attractive man. And then I was like, oh, I'm not sold on him as Geralt because the wigs initially were not working. And I hadn't read anything. I had heard that there were short stories and that the first season was based on that. So I wasn't like, oh, what is going on? Like I was like, oh yeah, I know that they're not sequential, like it's jumping all around. And especially like, I don't know, it was second, third episode or something happened where you see, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is definitely a different timeline because these same people are now younger. But my friend was like, what is going on? She was like, I had to Google. I was so confused. And I was like, it's obviously just a different timeline. And so that wasn't super bad to me. And honestly, if the stuff with Ciri at the end of the first episode had not like if they hadn't done that, I might not have continued because I was very just like, okay. And I was like, well, I'm interested in what's going to happen to her. And then as it went, I was like, all right. And by, I think episode 4 or 5, I'm like, okay, this is a little better. Like I'm actually, but yeah, the first one, I was just like, Yeah, I'm good on this. But I originally was intrigued by Ciri. And yeah, so not like I was just like I knew everything. Because same, I was like, law of surprise, did I miss something? I was like asking Andrew, I'm like, did they say it and I missed it? Because like I usually like watching these things, I put my phone down. I'm like, I've been paying attention. I also have subtitles on because I have subtitles on for everything. I'm like, what is the law of surprise? He's like, just pay attention. I'm like, but I want to know, did I miss it? But it was fun. I'm just sad it was 8. I don't like this 8-episode model.
Yeah.
That's the popular thing.
Yeah.
And then I liked season 2 better, but I would be interested to see how I feel about if I rewatching season 1 now.
There was also a cool thing in season 1 that I didn't notice till rewatch, and it was my third rewatch. So the guy with the magic sword, who's like with Yennefer and stuff in the end of season 1 in the last battle, I never noticed till this watch that he like pulverizes an ally at the end when he like regenerates, like when he comes back to life. I'm like, what was that about? Because he gets like bad vibes about him a little bit in season 2. So I'm just like, there's like little subtle things that aren't like super telegraphed, but like he like wakes up and doesn't kill a Nilfgaardian. He kills one of the other people.
Right.
But why?
Are you Vilgefortz?
Yeah, Vilgefortz. I can't remember anyone's names ever.
Yeah, except the main. And like I had heard about, I was so mad because I was like, okay, I know Geralt and Ciri are post. I was like, when are they gonna get together? Yeah. And waiting. And then obviously like Yennefer, I had heard these names, but I was like, it was jarring to me the first I was like, this is Yennefer. Oh. Yeah, that was a shock to me at first.
I'll try to keep my thoughts for season 1 brief because I think most people probably know if they're watching this, but I was not a fan of season 1. I liked certain moments, I liked certain episodes, and there were certain things that I appreciated, especially as far as adapting the books. And I wasn't even going into it expecting it to be perfectly true to the books, even though I think following the showrunner and all these other people, they kept saying it was going to be really true. And it was true to the timeline in a lot of ways. They skipped around some things. So a lot of it was true, but then the things they changed, it was hard for me to get over because some of the changes I didn't love. And I thought some of what they did with Ciri and Yennefer felt a little too filler to me, but I think that they almost had to establish those characters more so that going into season 2, you don't have to the way it's kind of done in the books, like Yennefer's backstory is barely touched on. And when it is, it's not till way later. So for a long time, she's just this mysterious figure. And I think the way that you see her is almost only through Geralt for a while. And then you start to get more of her. And then you're like, oh, okay, maybe I feel a little different about her now. Because for a while, you're like, what's this girl's problem? But I think I was excited that they were going to explore her backstory. And then some of it, I was like, ugh, I don't know if I like this. I feel like they're trying to make the magic a harder magic system than it is. And some of the series stuff and the way that her and Geralt interact in the books occurs differently in this, like the way they did it. I'm like, technically he's met her. And I wish they had seen some of her, like little girl Ciri and Geralt occurs in the book. And I wanted to see that, and we didn't get that. We get them coming together at the end of season 1, and I'm like, why am I supposed to be emotional about this moment? They've never met each other, and I was just frustrated. And then to echo some of the other comments about I didn't love some of the CGI. It just felt hit or miss. Some of it, the special effects, the makeup, some of it looked phenomenal. And then some of it, I'm like, what are we looking at? But I think it's almost embraced that it has a slightly campy feel. And I'm more behind it. I think getting into season 2 thoughts a little bit is that some of like the camera work and the angles where I'm like, am I tripping on acid right now? This is really bizarre decisions here. And some of what they did, I'm like, okay, they're going for it though. I think they've kind of found their footing, and you don't have to like it, but I kind of appreciate that I feel like I know what I'm getting now with Witcher. So season 1, as far as the split timeline goes, kind of what Angela was saying, I respected it. And I knew because I read the books, but it was kind of fun. We had a friend fly in because it came out around Christmas for season 1 also. And our friend flew in and he was like, okay, we need to talk about Witcher. What is going on? And he was like asking us everything, like when, what happened. And the thing that I think throws people off the most is that Jaskier doesn't really age. And it makes sense for Geralt and Yennefer, but Jaskier's just a person. So when you see him at that event with what was Ciri's parents, and then you see him later, you're like, this is a long time. Like a long time has passed. And
He's just Paul Rudd. He's just Paul Rudd. We just have to accept it.
This
He has
never
found-
ages.
Yes, the fountain of youth, evidently. But so I didn't love season 1, but I enjoyed season 2 a lot more. I am a little confused, and I'm curious, Angela, your thoughts on this. I've seen some people say that you can't even recognize that it's Witcher if you've read the book. Sorry, I didn't mean to make them sound like to put down their feelings, but that it's unrecognizable. And I was kind of confused because I felt like if anything, as a book fan, I was impressed with what they were taking from the book, and they were adding to it from the books, I should say. Yeah. They were adding to it for sure, but watching it with Sean, who hasn't read the books, I was like, no, that's actually in the books. That's really cool that they're doing, and I was really excited. So it's funny to me to see other Witcher people say it's not even close. So I'm curious if you feel that way too.
I mean, I've definitely heard that buzz, but yeah, for me, I thought even down to how the style of world building execution, how it's not as spelled out, like that's very much even the tone of the books. The books are very much like, this is a well thought out world that you are going to discover piecemeal as Geralt and people roam around. So I don't know, I thought like there were actually things that I didn't even think they would take from the books because it was so convoluted and weird, and then there's like one-off mentions of things. I was like, oh, that's cool that we're actually still keeping it. So I'm not as attached to the main novels as like true Witcher fans, mainly because I didn't realize till halfway through reading the novels that the project of the novels wasn't what I'd signed up for. And if I'd gone into the 5 novels being like, oh, this is more like a world building study of this like legendary character that isn't Geralt, then maybe I would have been better off. So I don't know. And something I loved though about season 1 as well though is the first 2 short story collections are only Geralt perspectives. They're just his stories, but there are big moments in the world that we know about because he hears about them. And I loved seeing those moments, like the battle with Yennefer and the other mages and like what happens in Sintra. Like I just liked seeing it. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know why Witcher book fans don't like it that much. I don't know. I didn't think it was egregious whatsoever.
I can understand certain things. So we're full on getting into season 2 now. And the Baba Yaga plot line, I was like, all right. Because Sean was like, what's going on here? I was like, I have no idea, actually. Because there's some witch stuff in the video game, but not quite to this degree. So I was unsure about that plot line. But at the same time, I'm like, I kind of like that there's something new. Because otherwise, as a book person, it's hard to not constantly be like, oh, they changed that. I'm like, this is completely. So I feel like newcomers now. Because
and that's how I felt too. I was telling Jess actually yesterday when I was rewatching episode 2. It's like, oh, I kind of now starting to get the Baba Yaga stuff because I'm rewatching it and I have context for where it's going because it's not in the books. I didn't know if it was in the video games because the Wild Hunt is kind of, I think, both the video games and the books. But in the books, the Wild Hunt is barely ever explained to me. And I hope we get a bit more explanation in the show. I'm just like, everyone's freaking out about this Wild Hunt in the books. And I don't know what it is.
And Yennefer losing her magic irked me a little bit. But I was like, all right, I think because it made Yennefer, it kind of changed the dynamics. Like that scene where Ciri sort of figures out what Yennefer was doing. That scene, I was so nervous. I messaged some friends and I'm like, dude, episode 7 has upset me so much because I was enjoying this season. What are they doing? Because we need Yennefer and Ciri, just like how Geralt and Ciri have this father-daughter relationship. I'm like, I need Yennefer and Ciri to have the mother-daughter relationship. And if Ciri's like, I guess you were trying to kill me to get your magic or like bringing me to this crazy witch lady. And I'm like, what are they doing? And then they kind of repaired it, because Yennefer basically was willing to kill herself for Ciri. So, it's all good now. But yeah, in episode 7, I was like, I don't know. I was very nervous, but I thought episode 8 kind of pulled it back in. But I think in that way, I can see people being upset. And I think they could have done it differently. But how they went about it is fine.
I just feel like Yennefer does, for such a famous character, she gets very little page time in the novels. So I don't even know how they get upset, just because it's like, well, if you wanted it from the novels, it's very boring in terms of like she's just not on page.
I can relate to the being upset at how they've started Yennefer and Ciri's relationship. I can get I was hoping Yennefer would change her mind and then it would never be like this. Anyway, I just thought they could have gone about it differently, but they didn't. So, it's fine. Anyway,
none of that bothered me in the slightest.
Yeah, because I think it's consistent with the Yennefer we have in the show, who I do think is not the Yennefer in the books. They're both powerful women, but they're not the same to me.
I feel like Yennefer in the books is a quieter, like I said, mysterious figure. And in the show, she's not mysterious at all. She's constantly shouting how she feels about everything, I think. She's not as sneaky. And yeah, I think that she has potential of betrayal, like betraying people in the books, but how she goes about it is very different. And now I don't know if they're even going to touch on some of that. But anyway, I feel like we've been skipping over just talking about that.
Yeah, I was about to say, how do you guys feel about Yennefer?
I mean, I like her. Like, none of that stuff bothered me. Like, the whole Baba Yaga thing, like, I was just like, this is the storyline. Like, I had no expectation or other understanding. So I was like, oh, this is a thing. Like, I wouldn't have known whether or not that was in the books or not. It's just like, this is part of the story. And I don't know, I felt like, because the show Yennefer, I felt like how she was acting initially with Ciri, I was like, well, it makes sense. This whole time she's been so mad about not having her magic. She's freaking out. She's screaming in the forest. She's trying to figure it out. She's trying to hide it from everybody. She's like sacrificing herself essentially in front of the other mages to like let this dude go because and just whatever, all the stuff. She was just like in distress about not having her magic. So I don't know. And I kind of assumed, just again, based on who she is in the show too, though, I kind of assumed she wasn't going to like actually go through with it. It was just like, oh, how far is she going to go with this? But I figured she wasn't going to go through with it because I figured she would like get to know Ciri, and Ciri's awesome and whatever. But so yeah, it wasn't, I don't know, it didn't bother me a whole heck of a lot because I was expecting her to turn around, and it didn't like upset me that she was initially like still going through with this plan. So I was like, well, yeah, she's like losing her mind about not having her magic. But no, yeah, I mean, so I like her. I think, I don't know who my favorite would be, I guess, but I like Yennefer. I feel like she's not my favorite though. Just because she's like, I feel like she's always like freaking out about something.
Which she's not in the books.
No, she's very calm and collected in the book.
Yeah, she kind of like when she gets all upset, I was like, are you about to cry? Like she always sounds like she's like on the verge of like freaking out. Oh my God.
When she does in the books get mad, it's awesome. Like there's a part, I think she stabs someone with a fork and you're like, yes. Nice. It's awesome. Anyway, sorry, Jess.
Oh, no. I mean, I told Angela yesterday, I'm like, I don't know how much I can contribute to this because I don't have anything to compare the show to. So I'm just like, yes, I like Girl Hot. Woo! But yeah, with Yennefer, I go back and forth. It's not, well, obviously don't have anything to compare to, but I was worried. I had concern about what she was going to do in the second season, but obviously like they needed, well, I don't know if they needed to because I don't know what content they had to go off, but it did stress me out. I was like, oh no, she didn't. How is she going to betray us like this? And so that, yeah, I don't know. She is something else. And was it in the first season or I can't remember now, but when you go from her at the school, I guess, or like her training, and then later how she's become who she is, I thought that was really interesting. I don't know, you obviously don't get to see like the in-between, but you just kind of learn about her like reputation as this kind of mage, and I kind of wish we had seen more of that, but I guess maybe that would be too monotonous. I don't know. So yeah, I don't know. She's not my favorite, but I also don't dislike her. I will tell you who I didn't like at the beginning though, and that is that boy, the singing guy.
Jaskier?
I remember when the show came on, and everyone on Twitter, everyone was talking about coin your Witcher or whatever. And I was like, all right, here's the time for the song. And I hated it. I hated it. I muted it and watched for the words on the screen to wait for it to go off. And then it would come on again, and I was like, no, I don't know. I hate it.
Did you like his breakup song though in season 2?
Yeah, his other one, yeah, but that one I was like, oh, this is atrocious. I don't know. It hurt my ears.
Oh my gosh.
So sorry.
I like Toss a Coin. I like both.
Yeah, I Toss a Coin's catchier, but I enjoy the angst of the breakup song.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's too
He
funny.
needs a haircut though.
I don't know who my favorite is.
God.
I think I'm just basic, and I literally started this for Geralt, and that is why I'm still here. But I'm like, I watch this purely as pleasure. Like, I'm shallow. I like his biceps and his lats. He's a very attractive individual. And I know, Elle, you have complaints about like he's not as talkative as he is in the books, which he isn't. But I still think he comes across as like a quiet smart. And I don't know. I learned recently, I don't know if any of you guys have watched Ted Lasso, but there's a character in Ted Lasso who also just grunts and says F-bombs whenever anything goes wrong. And I realized I really like that in like a broody dude character is when something like when shit hits the fan and they just like.
I feel like it was really heavy in the first season, a little better. I mean, I would love for him to speak more, but I also just like him, like a look, a grunt, a sigh. I'm just like, oh, I know.
I will say he does a good job of like melting when he sees Yennefer.
Yeah.
That moment where he sees her again and he's like all mushy. The book in me / I don't love Triss because of certain things in the book, which I feel like they didn't do in the show, which is fine. But when he rejected her, I'm like, that's right. That's right.
I was mad at Triss in season 2 because she knows he cares about Yennefer, and she didn't say once she's still alive, and I was so mad at her.
I know. That's how she
low
is.
down and dirty.
I mean, that is how Triss is. I like the show's like, you look different now. It's like, yeah, trauma made my hair red because the fans were all pissed. It's funny.
I always love a kind of, I don't know, I guess you could use the same thing in TV, almost like the found family element of all like the Witchers. I forgot what it's called where they live.
Kaer Morhen.
And I was like, oh, I just love this up here. We have the broke cousin of, dang it, Tormund, Giantsbane, but not him.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I enjoyed that and watching. I mean, my favorites are just Geralt and Ciri, if I'm just go ahead, because I just love that relationship. I know it didn't get to develop as much, or Elle, you didn't think it had enough time, but I just was like, I was like, I already knew it was coming, so I just was like, put them together. I'm in love.
Yeah, rewatching the first 2 episodes, the whole like struggling to get a teenager to do what you want, like Geralt just being like, she won't listen to me.
I did like a lot of what they did at Kaer Morhen and everything. Okay, I shouldn't say everything. A lot of the interactions between Triss and Ciri and the other Witchers is very accurate. And again, I'm not saying I only like the things that are accurate, but I wasn't sure if they were going to have that in the show, and I was surprised they did. And I think those moments are great in both the show and the books because it shows Ciri just trying to kind of find her place in this new family that they don't treat her very well. They think of her as this pampered princess, and she's clearly not. She's gone through a lot. She's willing to do what it takes, but they just don't see it at first. And then that part, I was like, oh, when she comes out looking nice, and then they all start making fun of her, and I'm just like, oh, you guys are buttholes.
I was so annoyed at them.
Scolds them, and I'm like, yeah, thank you. They deserve to be scolded. They should be put in their place. So I did like that quite a bit. But I do wish we'd had. I just want more episodes so that we can see more like Ciri time. I would like that. I think that one of my favorite characters, not related to any of this, was Dijkstra. Oh my gosh, I was so excited. I'm like, this man is perfect. So, Shoshana and Jess, do you know which one Dijkstra was?
I forgot.
He's that like very kind of brutish looking spy guy that was constantly talking to the owl.
Oh, okay.
Oh my god.
Oh, you like him?
I'm so excited. Yes, I'm so
Like
excited.
barely there.
I know, but what little he was, I was like, that's right, that's Dijkstra. And I was so excited.
He was in season 1, right?
I don't like him.
Am I forgetting?
No, you're thinking of a different person, I think. Because
Okay.
Dijkstra's the guy, he's the advisor to that one.
Is he an elf? No.
No, Dijkstra's like bald and has like the white. He looks like if the Monopoly Man became a.
Oh, you're talking about the other guy that's always talking to the owl. Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, not the elf. No, that's Darrow. He's not in the book.
Dara. Wait, I love Dara. This one and another one. Just Shauna.
Whatever.
And what? You like? Oh, obviously, I haven't read the books or the game, but I don't like him. So we'll see, I guess.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about the kid, the elf kid that like was in season 1 with Ciri or whatever that was talking to the owl.
I was so happy when he popped back up. I was like, oh, he's alive.
Yeah.
How sad were you all when the one elf died in the sewers?
Oh yeah, that was a bummer.
I'm like, give this person an award.
That was a bummer.
I was so bummed. I was so connected to that person. And like a lot of the season I thought was fun as a book reader because they did new things and I didn't know where things were happening. Like episode 8, I was stressed. I did not know. I think I could say Geralt and Ciri were safe, but I had no clue about anyone else. I was just so stressed.
Okay, did they purposefully throw in a Jurassic Park reference? When Dan or Jaskier's under the table and you like see the water.
I think so.
I think they threw in I was like, all right, cool, I guess. Because Sean was like, is that that's from Jurassic Park? I don't know if they did it on purpose or if it just happened to be a similar thing to Jurassic Park. But I was like, I guess we're getting dinosaurs now. What did you think of Vesemir? Vesemir, I think, is people.
Remind me who that Vesemir is again.
He's the Witcher dad, right?
Okay. I know who he is now. I literally cannot with the names in the book. It's why I struggle with Time of Contempt.
Yes, in the books, Vesemir he exists and he's there, and you like hear about him because I think in the short stories, Geralt mentions Vesemir. He mentions his kind of mentor figure, and even talking about his name, Geralt of Rivia, where he's not actually from Rivia, and he was like, "Oh, Vesemir told me I should, have a more notable names so people would respect me more." Whatever. Like he'll mention Vesemir, and he shows up when they're at Kaer Morhen, but he's not really that in the books. And so a lot of people who know Vesemir know him through the game, and he is quite different in the game than he is in the show. But it's just a matter of interpretation of how you decide this character is going to be, because there's not something really to reference it off. He's not that big of a deal in the book. So I'm curious what you thought of Vesemir.
I like him.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think he's cool. I liked his character and like kind of his internal struggle there when he was like wanting to kind of use Ciri, but I mean, she was volunteering, but he was very for it, kind of knowing that Geralt would be like
screaming at the TV. I was like, oh, Geralt's gonna be pissed.
That whole thing kind of frustrated me because I was like, she doesn't like when she was like, I want to be useful for once. I'm like, you can be by just giving them your blood. Like you're very useful. Why do you have to go this other step further? Like in her head,
I think she just needed more power to be secure. I think she's just not felt stable for so long. And she thought power would give her stability.
Yeah, but I was just like, she's like, I want to do something. I'm like, you're already doing something useful by giving them your blood.
She already has power. I'm like, when are you going to tell her really dreams, girl?
Yeah, I really liked that whole how that played out though, and then Geralt coming in and like his little speech he gave her. I was like, oh.
I think a lot of it too is her wanting to be a Witcher, so she feels like she belongs with them, like truly belongs. So in that way, I thought it was sad. And I think there's some parallels between her arc in the show and Yennefer's arc, where they're both so willing to do what it takes, because everything, like Yennefer had a family, but they were terrible. And then Ciri had a family and they're dead now. And so she's finding this new opportunity to belong, and she's trying to do whatever she can to have that. And then whereas Yennefer, I feel like, is trying to it's like she desires this family unit too, but she wants to be able to have her own as opposed to like fitting into one that already exists. And I think anyway, so I just feel like they're setting up their relationship and why they're similar, and I think they're setting that up well. But yeah, that moment, Vesemir, I do feel bad. I don't know if any of you watched the movie prequel for it. I feel like it needed to be a few episodes and not just one movie, because I thought could have been really good. I just thought it was a little too short. But I do think that even not having, if somebody didn't watch that, you can see Vesemir's struggle. These are basically his children, and all his children are dying, or they're all slowly dying in a way. And just the concept of Witchers are going away, even though.
And I loved like the parallels in the arc between Geralt and Vesemir, because in episode 2, you see the loss of one of the Witchers with the tree thing going on. I can't remember the name of it. And, you know, they're trying so hard to be like, hold off, we can do research. Maybe we can fix this. We don't want to kill you. And then Geralt has to make the decision to kill him. And then the last episode, Ciri's, you know, being possessed. And Geralt doesn't want to sacrifice her, but Vesemir doesn't want to risk. So they're like in flipped positions. And they're, you know, I think it's, you know, you have the new father versus the old father. And like, I really liked a lot of that.
I have to say really fast that I had criticisms and wishes for season 3. We can go back to favorite and good moments, but oh my gosh, apparently everybody is just like in the same neighborhood, because they could go from one place to the next. Like every time Yennefer needed to go somewhere, she was there. And if she had her magic and she could teleport and use portals, that would be different. But she couldn't, and she would just appear. So episode 7, they're at Sintra. And then she gets possessed basically by Baba Yaga, Ciri does. And then they're back at Kaer Morhen. And I'm like, so has she just been chilling until they're back at Kaer Morhen and now she's going to go off? Or I didn't understand, because Geralt and Yennefer, they went off in their own thing. And then Ciri was riding off with Jaskier and some of the others. And I'm like, wouldn't she have just killed all of them right now? I don't understand why she's like...
I think it's messy, but so they went to another dimension, and I'm going to just say time works differently in that other dimension, and they were almost at there. Well, they were traveling, right? Because she gets possessed while they're traveling away from Sintra, somewhere in a forest. So maybe while they were doing stuff with Baba Yaga at the same time went by at a different rate, and they were really close.
I just don't even think about it that much.
As
honestly.
a Game of Thrones fan, once Homeboy got from the wall back, I had to let it go, because
just like Arya going from friggin'.
I mean, they be crossing continents in 15 minutes.
I think it's also allowed because it allows for coolness. Like, it would be less cool, I think, on the road, maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
Because it just takes, and obviously that's something in books sometimes that I struggle with, is traveling, because sometimes you're like, okay, can you just say months pass and we get there? Because sometimes a lot of traveling, and obviously they already only have 8 episodes, but I understand it's like, wait, but girl, you couldn't just pop over here. But yeah, after how Game of Thrones did, it's rare, because I usually notice a lot of things. I'm very picky, but I'm like, okay, I just have to let that go. Yeah. They're just going to have to get from place to place.
Yeah, no, I think the sense of distance is not well portrayed in the show overall.
I literally just don't even think, it doesn't even cross my mind when I'm watching. I'm just like, this is what we're doing now.
Like, if they're on a horse for 2 minutes, they traveled a long way.
Yeah, I'm like, sure. I don't even have a thought of how long did it take to get here? I'm just like, whatever, we're here.
I think I was thrown off because it felt like, you know how sometimes you'll watch a show and then when you go to watch the next episode later, you started an episode ahead and you're like, oh wait, I think I skipped an episode. That's what I was like. I know we had one episode left, but I swear I skipped one because we were in Sintra and now we're at Kaer Morhen. And I know Kaer Morhen is way up in the mountains and people don't know where Kaer Morhen is. And there's no way it's right next to Sintra. And I was frustrated by that. But it wasn't the only time, because other parts of the show, you know, Yennefer just popped up wherever. And I was like, I mean, because there's only 8 episodes, we don't have time to dilly-dally. And like you said, Jess, we really don't have the time. But it made sense in season 1 when we were skipping ahead in different timelines. But in this one, I'm like, this is how much time is passing anyway. So I apologize for shouting, but that was one of my criticisms of this season. I already kind of mentioned some of my things I didn't love about the setup of certain relationships. I do wish we had more time. A lot of fans were upset at the whole Leshy, the tree thing that you mentioned, Angela, the way that they did that character. And I agree that was not emotional. It was emotional as far as the way it impacts Geralt and Vesemir. But I wasn't sad to see that guy go because I'd never seen him before. I do wish they'd introduced him earlier and made me care about him. So when this happened, you'd be like, why is he acting? I mean, it was
He
obvious.
also, like, acts like a jerk for like the first moments you see him.
Yeah, I was like, he seems gross and weird now.
Yeah, and if he had been like this nice, friendly guy that you had seen before, and then all of a sudden he's acting weird, you'd be like, dude, something's going on with that Leshy he fought, which I already thought that anyway. But then you'd be like, oh no, I hope they save him. And then when they don't, it would be more devastating, I think. But instead it was like, he gets killed after being a D-bag the whole time. You're like, what a loss. And then you get a flashback of him being like, Geralt, how's it going? You know, whatever, chatting with Geralt as like Geralt looks at the hallway. And I'm like, oh, how sad. Like I didn't feel that bad. But you know, I think they could have introduced him a little earlier and done his character a little bit more justice, and they did not, which is fine.
Something that is very superficial, but it threw me for like the first entire episode of season 2 is I was like, okay, season 1 Ciri looked 8 and now she looks 19. Like, I understand time passed, but god dang, that like I was Googling, I'm like, hold up, this is the same actress. Like, what happened? I understand, like, children grow fast, but she literally looked like a child in season 1. And in season 2, I'm like, excuse me. I don't know.
I mean, I think the actress was always a full-grown adult when she was playing Ciri. I'm not positive.
Yeah, but
wasn't
like, how
she
did they make? She was like 18, I think, maybe in season 1 or something, and now she's like 19, 20. But I'm like, she looked 8 to 10 years old in the first season to me. And
I would say to me, she looked like 15 to 17 in the first season.
I mean, everyone younger than me looks like a child, but and I know I read something about the eyebrows, like, and I know the eyebrows maybe do it because, like, yeah, dyeing your eyebrows blonde long term not great, but like, I don't know, it's something. She went from you're in 3rd grade to oh my god, you're going to college in my eyes.
I do want to say though, I loved Ciri. I loved her so much.
I still love her. Yeah, yes, I love
like
her.
how they're being way more blunt about her lore than the books are, or the books are blunt in a weird way. Like, the books are like, here's a genealogical tree of all the people she's related to, and we do see the tree in the show, like with the researcher guy, Yennefer's first boyfriend or whatever. But like. But how, like, I don't know, I don't think it's in the world, but how her blood makes these flowers, like, she's clearly tied to something very mystical and powerful.
Learning all her stuff, I was like, but, and then the last episode, I was like, oh my god!
Okay, I have to say, there are some aspects of this season that while I liked this season more than season 1, I still have, like, some things I didn't think were absolutely amazing. It's not a new favorite TV show. However, it gives me hope for season 3 because some of what they've put in, I'm like, one, can't believe they put that in, and 2, makes me really excited for what they're going to do moving forward. And I'm just going to say, Istra talking to those 2 in that shop, that mysterious shop. I was like, and like I was excited about Dijkstra earlier. And then I don't know, do they name the owl? Do they say who it is at the end?
I thought he referred to her by name, but I can't remember.
It's not
okay.
Hedwig, but I don't know.
Philippa Eilhart. I'll just say it. I was like, Philippa's here. Now I just need what's her name? Kira, whatever her name is. I need that I think she has shown up. She's been there, but I need her to like.
There's one character in the books that I don't know if they're gonna put in the show, and I really hope so. But he hasn't shown up yet.
Which one?
He doesn't show up, I think, till Baptism of Fire. I don't know if that's enough to not give things away. I don't know. He is a supernatural creature that is not humanoid.
I'm excited for that. I hope so because he's one of the best characters.
Cool.
Do you know how many seasons the show is going to be?
I think they're planning on a lot, actually.
I think it's at least 5, but I don't know where I'm getting that number from.
Do you
I really like
have an opinion? I know a lot of people on the interwebs want it to be more of Monster of the Week or Monster of the Day.
I do not. I don't want that. I'll tell you why, okay? I'll tell you why. If you want Monster of the Week, play the video game and do all the side quests. Go get the werewolf and go get the griffin. You'll get all of that. But okay, maybe it's just me being a book fan. I don't know. There's some monster stuff in the books, and like being a monster hunter is his profession, but that is not what the books are about. I've seen people say like that's what the books are about. I'm like, no. And it's everybody's opinion, in my opinion, I'm like, no, it's not. It's not about that.
It's very clearly not. The author very much tells you it's not.
So the monster of the week would be fun if we had 20 episodes and they were animated and you saw, and they were 25 to 30 minutes long and it was like an anime. Sure, I'd be down for that. And then you get this bigger story from one episode to the next, But we don't have that kind of time. We don't have the budget to make all of the monsters look amazing because some of them look great and some of them still look pretty stupid. So I don't want Monster of the Week at all. Sorry. I agree.
If they did it, it would have to be like Avatar Last Airbender style sort of thing. Like where you do have the 20-some episodes and stuff.
I apologize, Jess, if that is what you want, because I was just basically
I don't. I mean, I'm enjoying it how it is. I just know I saw that on the interwebs, and I'm like, well, because somebody was saying like Buffy, which I never watched. I watched Charmed, okay? And obviously going back and watching Charmed, does it look great? No, but it's still iconic. So yeah, that would be a lot of money and time. And I know, like, I just am such a hard sell on the concept of animated adaptations. Like, I'm not above watching animated things, but like, I just don't like the idea of animated adaptations. I know that's so rude. I don't know.
We disagree.
I was about to say, I really want I want more normalized.
I don't like all of like Sanderson's. I don't want them animated because I feel like
Alamancey's gonna look real dumb with special effects. Let's just be real. It's not gonna look good.
It depends on the budget.
And there's only so much money you can throw at the problem of this doesn't happen in physics in our real world.
Whatever. I just don't want. It doesn't matter because no one listens to me is not my want. I just personally do not want anime things.
But to your original question though about Monster of the Week, I think all four of us don't want that.
I would not.
I would not like that if they expanded the episode number. Like, right. If we're talking about what's our perfect format of the show, I would like some filler episodes like of Monster of the Week so we can have the character moments and banter, like the quiet moments, the funny moments, But we don't have. That's not what we're given. So I'm not saying switch out episodes for Monster of the Week. I'm saying I would like some thrown in.
The story though gets so. I think something I think that the show did well, and I know other people this wasn't their favorite plot line, but everything to do with the sorcerers and sorceresses and their scheming and what Vilgefortz is up to, and seeing Dijkstra kind of playing people off of each other and advising people and then passing certain information along, everything with the elves, that is, I think, so much more Witcher, in my opinion. Like, you get these grim fairy tale, almost retellings woven in, but it's so much more about those things which then represent something bigger, or something that you can even tie that into our real world. Like the elves, the migration, refugee type of thing with the elves is something that, while it's a fantasy world, we can look at that and then see it in our own. And we can't see a Leshy getting eaten by some other mysterious creature and chasing after like that isn't the same thing. And so I think not to say that Monster of the Week shows can't have a lot of depth, because they can, but I think if this became only Monster of the Week, it would just be like cool guy fights cool monsters instead of it being so much more than that. Which is why, I think that's why people have loved Witcher, because even in the video game, which is how myself and so many people got into it, it's not, you think it's just this guy fights monsters, and it's not. There's so many times that you're doing a quest and then it gets so tragic and you have to make really difficult decisions, like, do I want all these kids to die or do I want this whole town to die? And that's a literal decision you have to make in the game. And
the kids.
It's a lot of kids, Jess. It's a lot of kids. And it's sad. And anyway.
I think that's why I really like the show, because I noticed those things while reading the books and really appreciated it. I just thought at times it got really heavy and indulgent and lost its narrative flow, if that makes sense. Like there was a whole chapter on the economics of a kingdom. I can't remember. Like, you know, it would be very focused on connecting it to like politics and economics and stuff. But the show still keeps like the camp level. It's like we have these bigger things and we still have the characters you love and we still occasionally have problems we need to solve with magic and fighting with a sword. Like I think
do
it's
really
blending.
like that they have Roach. That was sad. And
That was
also
disrespectful. I'm not, you know, before I was a pet owner, animal deaths hurt. But now they are very upsetting to me and my homegirls. Like I cannot, I can't. The world is terrible enough. We need, please stop killing the animals, the horsies, the doggies. Please.
I know.
It has
It's
to
like
show
any war movie. Any war movie where the horses are like going into battle and they hurt the horse. I'm like, don't hurt the horse. They didn't have a choice in this. They couldn't
So
choose.
disrespectful. But I like, especially season 2, like I liked the first episode with that whole thing and creepy girl crawling across the damn ceiling. I was like,
God.
oh, Lord, I'm gonna watch SpongeBob before I go to
liked
sleep.
that too.
But like the camera angles, the like
Yeah, and her
okay.
her clicking and all that. Like I like that. And then going in to the other things. So I like a combination of the things. And that's why I don't think I would really enjoy the books, because I think the show is doing enough for me in the politicking and scheming realm. But of course I wish there were like 12 or 15 episodes, like Angela said, we could see those just like small moments between them and moments that they bond and share backstories and all of this stuff, and add in maybe more of the monster fighting and getting to just see more, just be able to spend, because I mean there are a fair amount of characters, especially when you leave Geralt and Ciri and you go with like the mages and all that stuff, which is important and interesting. But I'm like, dang it, episode's almost over. I want more Geralt and Ciri. Like I'm just so bad at names. I only know 3 names. What's the gal who was the mage, the black girl?
Frangilla.
Frangelica. She was making me mad. I was like,
that one scene,
the elves, and then with the elves and the baby, I was like, oh my god. But can they please call the producers on the Lord of the Rings movie, because them elf ears are garbage. But other than that, it's fine. But yeah, I'm like, oh Lord have mercy.
Shoshana, what were you gonna say about Frangilla and
that freaking scene where she froze everybody? I was like, oh god.
Oh yeah. Oh, that was great. I
thought she was gonna just kind of like tease them and threaten them, like I could do it, and then just no hesitation. I was like, oh. Okay.
I don't know if you've watched the Honest trailer for it, but they're like, stop stabbing yourself. Stop stabbing yourself. That part.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Which I just want to say, I'm pretty sure that is kind of like a nod to the video game, because in one of the DLCs, there's a character who does that very thing. He like freezes time and then he stabs someone, and it's disgusting. But anyway, I did really like, even though it doesn't come way later in the books, I liked the reveal with Emir, the emperor, and I liked how he set up Frangilla and Kaer, and you're like, oh dang. And also, can I just say, Kaer, no, I feel like things were going fine, and then he showed up and he's just like, I'm about to run things again. And you're like,
it's so different from him in the books too. I'm like, okay, so you're just a different purpose. I don't understand. I didn't like him in the books either, but
him a lot. I can't. I mean, I thought the way he was in the books was a little strange, to be honest. I don't want to say why.
We don't have to say, because but
I don't want to spoil things for anyone that wants to still read the books. But I mean, I'm like, I'm not too upset about that change, because he's kind of interesting. So how would you say, kind of wrapping it all up, how would you say it compares to other adaptations that we've gotten recently? Did you like it more? Did you like it less? I just want to add to what you were saying, Jess, about the not only Monster of the Week, but that first episode with the Bruxa and like the horror elements and things like that. That is a good example of Monster of the Week and heavy moments. But that didn't really serve the overall bigger plot. So I don't mind the occasional episode like that. But I want to say, too, that those moments are really only pulling from the short stories. So you get Geralt occasionally fighting a monster, or an occasional monster will show up. in the series, the other 5 books, but it's not that common. So it would have to be all pretty much made up. And I just don't know. I don't know if they're going to do that. But anyway, how it compares to other adaptations.
Kind of related to that, I loved the tone of that episode because even if that wasn't with the whole plot, it was like a horror fantasy. Like, I don't know if there's I want something like that. I want a show and or book, whatever, both, that has that tone. It's like a horror. Is there...
Sabrina, the new Sabrina was okay, but it gets bad after season 1. But the first season of the new Sabrina was kind of that.
What did you say, Shoshana?
Monstrous, if they would adapt that. It's a graphic novel already, but
see,
that has...
I've never read graphic novels because, or I have one manga and I just feel this is such an ignorant take. Forgive me, okay, because I'm going to read this manga that I bought. It was very expensive. But I have been hesitant because I'm like, okay, well, I know there's imagery and a little bubble, but I'm like, how is it going to give me enough?
I'm really bad at staring at pictures for long enough, unless it's like a movie or something. So I need to practice because I will just read the words and forget to look at the pictures, which are important.
Monstrous, you can't help it because the pictures are so freaking gorgeous. Oh my God. But it has like, I was just saying, because it has like a little horror element. That pops in.
Have you watched the movie Pan's Labyrinth? Because that's a lot of what that episode of Witcher and some of the other darker ones remind me of, by Guillermo del Toro. It's a great movie.
And there's only one, right? The one with...
Yeah.
Well, so I can't think of another thing that it's exactly like. So I guess in that way, that's kind of a cool thing, right? That there aren't a ton of other fantasy shows, at least right now, that are like this. But as far as the examples I had listed of Wheel of Time, Shadow and Bone, Dune, we did a whole chat on Wheel of Time. So if you'd like to watch that, you can see that there. I don't think we did one for Shadow and Bone.
I haven't watched it yet.
That's right. Jess has not watched it yet. And then I think quite a few of us have seen Dune, right?
I've seen all the ones you listed, so yeah.
Okay.
Well, I've seen almost part of whatever.
So you didn't watch Shadow and Bone either, Shoshana?
No, I watched Shadow and Bone. Wheel of Time, I stopped after episode 4. I was like,
smart.
Don't care.
So I think that Shadow and Bone and Witcher are almost too different to compare. I mean, they fall under the umbrella of fantasy and fantasy adaptations, but they're so very different. But I think Shadow and Bone succeeded. It did a better job of adapting the source material and then enhancing it. Where Witcher, it's definitely doing its own thing. And I think while it's pulling from a lot in the books, it definitely feels more like it's inspired by the books, but it also is a little separate. So in that way, it's like, I think Shadow and Bone maybe has done a better job of what I mentioned, but Witcher seems to have tapped into something. I hate to pull the Game of Thrones thing in. I'm not saying it's the new Game of Thrones, but it seems to have tapped into something that a wider audience seems to be enjoying.
Yeah, I feel like Shadow and Bone, I mean, I think it was popular. I don't know the data and the stats on the viewership and whatever, but just like I feel like it would be more popular with people who've read the books or know about the books versus like pulling in a lot of like a wider audience. I don't feel like it's...
I think that
I really liked that adaptation though. Like, I mean, of the examples you gave, that's the only one where I've read the source material, and I don't really like the source material all that much. But I really liked the show because, like you said, I think they did a really good job of like taking these elements and these characters, but then like making them better and making it all better.
I think that
I feel like The Witcher like is just more. I don't know. Like I feel like it's going to keep grabbing more people from a wider audience than just like people who know about the Witcher games or books.
Yeah. I think too that a lot of credit goes to Henry Cavill, not just because you don't really have. I know we have Ben Barnes in Shadow and Bone, but he's not been in these huge things.
He's not Henry Cavill A-list level.
So, but beyond even just their reputation.
What was Henry Cavill in before this? What, terrible Superman movies?
It was terrible, but it was still a big budget movie. People know him.
Continue, Elle.
I was just Jess loves Ben Barnes also for
Ben Daddy Barnes, correct.
But so not even taking in consideration like the looks of the actors or anything like that, and the fact that they've been in these other popular things, but I think what it really comes down to is that one, Henry Cavill pulls in the people that don't know Witcher, and he loves Witcher and cares about it enough that even people that don't 100% love the show, they respect how much he respects Witcher. And so they're like, I'm watching it for Geralt. Some people, of course, just love the show and like what they're doing. But I feel like he cares so much about this character and adapting this. And I think for that reason, you've got his reputation pulling in new people and then his care keeping a lot of people.
Yeah.
So props to Henry Cavill. I know a lot of people are like, he's attractive. And I'm like, well, yeah. But for me, it's that other stuff. Like, I think it's really cool how much effort he's been putting into it. And I think because he played the games, and I think he went back and read the books, and he looks at things in the books. And I think I've even heard, I don't want to say this is a fact, but like I think Freya Allen, who plays Ciri, has even said that he will say, like, I think we need to have this moment from the books or this line from the books in the show. And I'm like, oh, that makes me happy as a fan.
Yeah, it really annoys me how bad the Superman movies now are, because I now know it's not Henry's fault. It was completely people like in the writer's room, because he's so good at preparing for a character.
Have you guys seen The Man from U.N.C.L.E.?
Yeah, I didn't like that movie.
Oh man, I love it. It's one of my favorites. It's so fun, and he's so good in it. No. I love it. Although it's got what's his face too, Armie Hammer. But
in terms of the adaptation question, these are it's quite the list we're comparing. I like Wheel of Time the least. I think it was just the least engaging storyline, characters, visuals. Yeah. The Wheel of Time was fine. It was completely fine for me. I think I gave it like 6.5 out of 10 or something.
So generous.
I think actually Shadow and Bone and Witcher are really different, but in their first seasons, they both actually have really powerful emotional relationship connections that I really latched onto. Like the friendship to lover thing in Shadow of Bone. Like, I haven't read the books, and I'm not going to, because I know that the books make a character that I love horrible. I really loved instantly, like episode 1, I was so connected to that. And like Geralt and Yennefer and Geralt and Jaskier, like I just felt like the interpersonal relationships are strong in all of them. But I rewatch Witcher. I have not rewatched Shadow and Bone.
I want to go back and rewatch Shadow and Bone. It's just, I think it's a little, for me, it's more fun. Yeah. And Witcher, it's more of like, all right, buckle up. And as far as I know, I had Dune in that list. Dune is, I think, the most, maybe some people disagree, I think it's the most true to like, it left some stuff out. It had to, but it's like, this is Dune. And then
it wasn't really exciting as a reader. I'm like, oh yeah, that's that scene.
It literally is very, and I was hoping, this is one instance where I really wanted them to change stuff in Dune, just like spice it up. And I was like, oh, this is the book. Mm-hmm.
Well, the actress who's the leader of Aretuza, like the teacher, what's her name?
Oh yeah.
She's the same actress as Paul's mom, and I think she did way better in Witcher than in Dune.
Oh, is that?
Yeah, it's the same one, I think.
Is it?
That's Ryan pointed it out to me, and I thought I looked it up, but I think it's the same actress. Let me make sure I'm not like saying weird things, but the person who plays Jessica, I think, is the head witch of sorceress or whatever at Aretuza.
I don't know what you're talking about, so.
Just Tisea, that's her name.
I don't know.
Oh, maybe I was. Nope, I'm wrong. It's not on her IMDb.
Oh, yeah, I was like, I don't think so.
Well, never mind. I like Tisea more than Jessica. So I'm comparing those characters, and
that's
I think
one thing in Dune. That's like the only thing I feel like they got totally wrong, in my opinion. But is Jessica is like flipping out in the movie all the time, and she's not like
supposed to be so calm. Like
it did her dirty. So I haven't watched Shadow and Bone. I do plan to watch it. I did watch the first episode and like half of the second, and I was like,
If you love Ben Barnes so much, how have you not watched it?
Don't do that. Don't do me like that, okay? Because I follow my man's on Instagram. I be listening to his music. I show my support for my love, okay? was, I'm gonna get to it. Goodness.
Listen,
I'm
watching that
reading
show is so
it.
fun as someone who knows the book internet and hasn't read the books and knows YA tropes. And I'm like, okay, everyone says Dark Lena, and I don't like what I'm seeing and what is
I don't know why
implied.
people say that. That's a whole thing I can get into.
You know,
Well,
it's
especially
fine.
since the difference in actor ages was like 20 years. I'm like, I really feel
Even in
uncomfortable.
the books, I'm like, I don't get
mean,
why
he's
anybody
like
ever...
hundreds of
For
years.
some
but
reason,
that's
if
always a
someone
thing.
looks the same age as someone else, my brain can like cover over it. But a 40-year-old and a 20-year-old on screen is just like, I know.
But Ben don't look 40. So, anywho,
We gotta
haven't
talk about
seen Shadow and Bone,
adaptations in
but
general.
Wheel of Time was very warm garbage. It was not great. They
Very
literally they took, and obviously I don't have the things to compare the Witcher adaptation to, and it sounds like there's things that are different, but they really took Wheel of Time and they're like, okay, we're gonna the air of Wheel of Time, but we're not gonna go with the story. And then Dune is very, I don't know, I feel like out of those adaptations that I've watched, this has been the most enjoyable to me.
Yeah.
And maybe
as someone,
like I
haven't
have something to compare it to, because that's often it's rare, because I pay attention to things. So it was like, I don't have any expectations. And while I didn't love the first season, it did get better. And then I really loved the second season and but even with Dune, which I thought was okay, I was like, actually, this time I want them to change stuff. And it looked good, but I was like, all right, this is the book in a movie.
Yeah.
I haven't, like, as someone who hasn't, I didn't read Wheel of Time nor Witcher, right? And so both of those shows, like, Witcher, like, was just, even season 1 that was confusing and like, what the frick is happening? I was having a good time, and like I wanted to watch the next episode. At the end of every episode, I was like, all right, what happens next? And with Wheel of Time, I like I said, I quit after episode 4 because I was just like,
oh my god,
I just really don't care. Like, I mean, I had issues with like the CGI and the freaking costumes. Like, how are we so clean and pristine and all the time? We just ran through the forest and we were like in a dirty, grubby like swamp, but now our clothes are like perfectly green and clean. What? This makes no sense. Which normally that stuff I don't even notice, but it was like so egregious that I couldn't help but notice. It was like in my face. But it was mostly just that I was just kind of bored. Like, I got to the end of episode 4, and like the end of episode 4 was like, oh man, like
that was the best one.
Big things happening. And then like a couple days went by and I was just like, oh, time to watch the next episode. And I was like, I just don't care.
Here's my thing. I think I didn't love season 1 of Witcher. I didn't love it. And I was nervous for season 2. And season 2 like got me back, and it's actually got me really hopeful for season 3. And like Angela said way at the beginning, I think they've set up a lot, which gives me a lot of hope that they're thinking about this in the long run, which is great. Yeah. Shadow and Bone, as far as first seasons go, because now we're comparing 2 seasons of Witcher to Shadow and Bone. But I thought the first season of Shadow and Bone was very solid, and I'm excited to see what happens next. Wheel of Time, I'm gonna watch season 2 and hope that what I felt for Witcher, of course, as a fan of Witcher, I have a lot more expectations and wants and things like that. Whereas with Wheel of Time, I don't love the source material. So I'm still excited. I'm still gonna give season 2 a try and hope that, similar to Witcher, that there's a lot of things they've put in place for payoffs later. And then Dune was just, it's visually great to watch. And I've only read the amount, basically. That's, well, technically, the movie is only half of the book, the first book. But I'm curious to see what they do next and how they adapt what I think were actually some really great concepts and themes. So I'm interested to see that. But entertainment-wise, I think Shadow and Bone and season 2 of Witcher are, well, Dune isn't like, it's entertainment, but I also feel like it's, I don't know how to explain. It's kind of slow.
Sand can be but so entertaining. Like, I was like, okay. I think the beginning of Dune, like when, you're seeing when they're still on whatever planet with the House Atreides and stuff. But once they get to, I don't know, there's moments, but it's not like Witcher has more like, ooh, and
it's fun. It's a lot more fun.
Did any of you guys see Dune on IMAX?
Yep.
Yeah, so because I feel like if I had seen Dune at home, I would have been on my phone a lot. Like there's a lot of moments of quiet, and I would have been distracted a lot. Whereas in the theater, I wasn't allowed. And like I'm not saying you didn't watch it. I'm just saying that like when I was in the theater, I felt a little more immersed than I know I would have been at home, and it was just kind of a spectacle moment. Like I like the spectacle of it.
Like
yes, that's a good way to put it. Visually, it's kind of. Whereas the other adaptations, you're like, that didn't look great, but we'll forgive it.
Well, yeah, we're comparing a multi-blockbuster budget movie to these TV shows,
which don't have as big of a budget as this 1 2 hour or however long it was movie. But I have to say, Angela, this is me. This is like the snobbiest thing, okay? But our TV is very good. We have a very good TV. And after we saw Dune in IMAX, I was like, I kind of feel like it would have looked better on our TV because IMAX is so big that it gets like kind of like filter look, if that makes sense. It's not as crisp. And then in Wheel of Time, the crispness, I'm like, is this affecting my enjoyment? Because it's like so clear that
I did hear that different color TVs show the Wheel of Time differently.
Someone said that there's settings usually on TVs now that make like the movements of CGI things look, and somebody was saying like they turned, but I still heard people said that they adjusted their TV and it still looked terrible. So
and I'm gonna say I don't want to adjust my TV to watch a TV show. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
I think my TV is because like Leanna was like, no, you can't comment on Dune because you didn't see it in IMAX. I'm like, please, my TV is wonderful and the sound was great because I think it was visually stunning. And I put my phone down. It just is like, there's not a lot to be like, oh, I loved Dune as this, like, there were
not a lot of tension. Like, I think a lot of like,
it's a lot of sand. And
have you guys seen that director's other works, by the way? Like Blade Runner 2049 and Arrival?
Elle's favorite movie.
Poor Sean. Sean really liked Arrival. He watched
Elle just hates sci-fi.
No, he went out of town for work and he watched it and he was like telling me he thought it was so good. He like shed a manly tear and I watched it and the whole movie I was like, I hate this movie. And like I did, and then at the end, anyway, you don't want to get me going on Arrival. I felt bad because I'm like, oh, Sean likes it, but like I hate it.
What I'm saying is like that director has a style of sci-fi movie, so I knew going into it and having read Dune, I'm like, this is going to be a huge spectacle, not action movie. Because like I saw the trailer and I knew they were lying.
Right. Yes. And one thing I'll add too is I thought his style suited Dune better than Arrival because Arrival, I'm like, so I actually didn't think Arrival looked as beautiful as a lot of other people did. So apologies. And this is like my most unpopular opinion. I feel like ever is I'm like, I don't like Arrival. But the visuals, I told Sean, I'm like, nature documentaries have just as good of visuals. You just gave me a nice shot of Montana with like a CGI alien ship. But like, I've been to Montana. I can see that view myself. Like, I don't know. Jess is left. She's upset with me. Maybe, or she's tending to something. But anyway, yeah, I apologize. I know most people love Arrival and think it's brilliant. I was like, I feel like I know what's going on, and also I don't know why I'm supposed to be wowed by this, but I'll stop now because I don't want to end this with people hating me. So
I was about to say, Arrival is one of my favorite sci-fi movies, but I don't really care if you hate it. It is one of my favorites.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to everybody who loves it and was moved by it. I'm glad that you like it.
Good for you.
I'm just saying this video is not about Arrival, so I'm just being quiet.
Jess, in the private chat, just put "be right back." You're back now. So, is there anything else Witcher related that we want to mention?
I just wanted to say I'm proud of them. I'm proud of them for getting a better wig on season 2. Because they were really doing that man wrong.
Play in season 1 where you can see which episode was filmed first. You can see when they get to the wig, and with season 2, you can see which episodes were filmed first based off the wig.
I was like, "What is this, honey? This is not it." It was bad.
Like the first episode with Jaskier and Geralt has like one of the first wigs where it's just like straightened blonde hair.
Bad.
In season 2, though, Jaskier's is not
Yeah.
What is happening
Oh,
there?
we haven't talked about Jaskier much in season 2. I was really happy when he showed up again.
Yeah,
I
mean,
a little bit felt like Jaskier, they leaned too much into him being like the comic relief. So he was almost a caricature. I mean, he's ridiculous. He's ridiculous in every form of Witcher that you get, the books, the video game, the show. But he was a little extra ridiculous for me. And I'm like, I want them a tiny bit to tone it down, but I don't know if other people agree with that. So
I just really like it. I don't know. After season 1, I was like, yeah, I'm down. I quite enjoyed season 1, even though I was confused. But by the end of it, I was like bought in. And yeah, after season 2, I'm like, I feel like it's one of my favorite shows. I really like it. It's a fun time.
I'm excited for season 3. I hope that's where for me it fulfills like all of my, because I know now what they've changed and what they're not going to stay true to, and then I can see where they are, and now it's like, okay, I've had time to accept. And I personally didn't think season 1, even with me being picky as a book fan, I still didn't think season 1 was amazing. But I am excited for season 3. I think that's where it's gonna shine. That's
Hit
what I'll
stride. Yeah, I'm excited for season 3. I don't think it's on. I'd have to rewatch it first to see if it was like on my favorites, or become like a comfort show or something. That's currently, for a SFF show, that's currently The Expanse. Be quiet now. I haven't. Sean watched the show. He needs to watch the show.
No.
Like, I feel what I noticed this year, because one of my comfort fantasy things used to be rewatching the Harry Potter movies, and I kind of fell out of that over time. And I noticed I was feeling like I wanted something that I knew, but I wanted to be with people and be in a fantasy world. And it's kind of become Witcher for me. Like, that's like and a lot of people have Lord of the Rings as their thing, or they rewatch Game of Thrones. And this is, I think, that's a lot for me.
I still watch HP, Lord of the Rings, and I have not rewatched Game of Thrones.
I was just saying, like, it's that type of thing for me where it's not quite like light, like rewatching like a Disney animated movie. It's like heavier than that, but like it's still comfortable because like I know what's happening.
I just want to say, if people haven't watched Arcane yet, everybody should go watch Arcane. It's the best show. Arcane was perfect. Oh my gosh. And that will be the show for me that I want to go back and rewatch. Because
I want to watch it. It's just, I hate that they've said that they're League of Legends because I don't care, but everyone in my house cares that it's compared to League of Legends, and they hate League of Legends, so I have to watch it.
I don't know what that is.
It doesn't matter. I promise.
I know it doesn't matter. It's what I tell them, but they don't care.
No, it's like it doesn't. It's so good.
I know.
I feel like
I'm
the
going to
first
watch
episode,
it.
you're like, this seems good, but I don't quite know what the hype is about just yet. And then by the end of episode 3, if you don't want to keep watching, I don't know who you are, but it's so good. Anyway, so Arcane for me, like, I enjoyed Witcher, and like I enjoyed a lot of these. I really did enjoy Shadow and Bone, but like then I watched Arcane and I'm like, oh, thank you. This is what I want. So that it's hard for me to have that beat. But anyway, is there anything else? Getting back to Witcher, anybody else wants to add before we wrap it up?
Don't think so.
Okay.
Let us know what you thought of Witcher season 2 or season 1. If you want to chat spoilers from the books later on or the video game, just write spoilers in your comment because I know it's hard to avoid seeing those sorts of things. But anyway, thanks for joining us today. I hope everybody has a great day, and we'll see you guys later.